This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Rock and Roll Denim, Bill Fick Ford, the WCRA, and Resistol.
Attention all rodeo athletes. Join us for the Cowtown Christmas Championship Rodeo in December. Over $360,000 in prize money in the historic Cowtown Coliseum in Fort Worth, December 14th through 17th. And no entry fees. Qualify using the VRQ for the Triple Crown of Rodeo $1 million cash bonus, featured on a CBS network broadcast. To get started, go to the App Store, download the WCRA Rodeo app, and hit nominate. This is your chance to rodeo in December. Nominate today or visit us at WCRArodeo.com.
Guys, another year has ticked by, challenging year, but there was somebody you could rely on if you needed a new Super Duty pickup, and that was Bill Fick Ford. Once again, the #1 Super Duty dealer in the entire country. You guys have seen what's going on in the car business, in the truck business. You're seeing trucks being sold for thousands above MSRP. Well, if you go to Bill Fick Ford, it doesn't matter where you are at in the continental U.S., he will take care of you. He will stand by the product, and he will not take advantage of you. Guys, Bill Fick Ford is the only place you can go in 2022 for a no-bull discount. Bill Fick Ford.
What sets Resistol apart is the legacy of the cowboys who wear the brand. These traditions are passed down from fathers to sons, from heroes to future champions. Since 1927, Resistol has been handcrafting the finest American-made cowboy hats. Generation after generation, we live it every day.
This is The Gauge with host Chance Conradu.
Are you freaking serious? It's Conrado. This is The Gauge, and I am Chance Conrado. On this episode of the podcast, we have got Bo Hill, whose real name is actually Rebecca, and that's really the only thing you need to know. The rest of it is in the body of her work. She's been in the barrel horse industry for a long time and has really done a lot of great things, and this is a great episode. Check it out.
And what do I need to do with these?
Well, you don't have to wear them, but they help. If you haven't done one of these before, believe it or not, that'll help you with your tonality.
I can still hear things?
More. You can hear better. If he has it set up right. You don't want a bottle of water or anything?
I think I'm good so far.
Just that half bottle of gin? I mean, we asked you not to drink this morning, but you
Top
wouldn't
shelf
listen.
gin.
Well, it's pretty average what we got.
Yeah.
Inflation. Can't get the good stuff.
Top shelf gin and Fresca.
Fresca?
Fresca, yes.
Fresca's still a thing?
It is. Sugar-free. Only causes cancer in laboratory rats. It's good.
Yeah. Well, Fresca probably doesn't have the money to bury their studies like a Coca-Cola, but I think Coca-Cola does the same thing.
Yeah. Guy's got a chance if he's not a laboratory rat.
I think he might. Yeah, one of those little piglets that has the head coming out the side.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. I don't think they do many lab studies that the public can see anymore.
I don't think those that you're drinking are real good.
These? You know what? I usually go for the coffee, but these ones say sugar-free. So that means something.
They taste somewhat better.
The sugar-free ones?
Yeah.
You think? Have you had one?
No.
Ever?
Never.
Don't get addicted to it.
I've never drank any kind of
Energy
drink. Never. No.
You drink coffee in the morning?
I do drink coffee.
Yeah.
A little coffee and gin and Fresca at night, and a cold Dos Equis don't hurt a girl.
Not in summertime. It's getting cold, though.
Now today's going to be like 91.
Yeah.
Mexican beers, yeah. Yeah, Mexican beers taste good when it's hot, I feel like.
Mexican beer tastes good.
You think so?
24/7. Yeah.
24/7?
Yeah. We don't trust people that drink by the clock.
No.
Are we recording this?
Yeah, we are. This is how they go. This is how they go. We kind of just ease into it, and if we find a way to have an intelligent conversation, we'll do that. But, you know, we could bullshit about beer all day.
Exactly.
Beer and barrel horses has kind of always been a thing.
They have to go together.
They do. But, you know, speaking of that, I mean, that's been your chosen life path, really.
It has.
And I like, you know, we've done like 200 of these things, including NFRs and things like that. And people really like the real conversation. That's one of the good reasons to have you here is that you don't mince words all that much there, Bo. And that's a good quality for for this type of program. But it's always interesting to find out what someone's motivations were or are for, you know, choosing that path, because it's not an easy path. It's not a guaranteed path, but what you find is that people tend to stick with it for some reason, the good ones. And I'd like to know
sometimes the path chooses you.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know I was going to be a horse trainer when I grew up. I grew up on a ranch and rode since I was a little kid, but the necessity to train your own horse to compete probably is what started me, because we didn't have money to buy a horse. Mm-hmm. And so you just had to make do with what you had, and you wanted to get better, and that's what made me motivated to train horses. And every year I think I'm going to ride a better horse. And I have never kept a horse much past 4. But I always tell people, when I ride the best horse I think I'm ever going to ride, he can eat Equine Senior at my house. But I haven't rode that horse yet.
Well, I think I mean, from a business perspective, that's a good thing, because how many people fall into that thing where they're just holding on to every horse? Yeah,
it's easy to fall in love with them. You spend a lot of time with them. It's easy to fall out of love with them too. But a good horse is easy to like, and winning is addictive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why they have all these rehab centers for people who gamble.
Exactly. And I don't know, I love a good horse, but it is a business as well. Like, you have to eat.
Yeah.
And I never thought I didn't think in my career, of course, I've been doing it before Fort Smith had a roof on it, probably close to 40 years. And I never thought we'd see $500,000 geldings or $500,000 embryos. I never thought the future would hold that, but It has. So that makes you stay in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, let's go back. I mean, 40 years is a lifetime for some things. I mean, certainly this industry. But I mean, when you're kind of looking at the landscape that we're all living in the horse market, horse industry, barrel horse industry, it's not just the barrel horses, but like, well, it kind of seems like it happened real fast. Like, if you're looking at it from 4 decades, it seems like it happened overnight compared to kind of the slow trends.
I do think it's changed drastically in the last 10 years. I think it's always been evolving, but I think veterinary medicine's gotten better, clinics have gotten better, pedigree's gotten better, the incentives have come into play, the money's gotten better, the value of the horse has gotten better. That's made it grow fast the last 10 years. Even the last 5, it's grown more in the last 5 years than it did in the first 20 that I was doing it. Yeah. It was pretty much the same deal. The fastest horse wins. They pay the top 6. No D's, no anything when I started. And the D thing changed things. It made the entries go up. It made the middle class horse bring more. It made you ride more horses because they were all going to have a market. At one point in my career, they had to change disciplines if they weren't any good. Now they don't. They just have to do it half-ass, and then they throw in this equal payout thing, but I'm not even going to get on my soapbox about the equal payout. But it made those horses have a place.
Yeah. Do you remember the very first fraternity you went to?
I don't. It was probably Fort Smith, but, man, I don't really remember back that far.
Probably has something to do with the 24/7 beer.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say I drank it 24/7. I just said it was
That's
good.
What you said.
No.
You did.
I said it's good 24/7.
You were backpedaling.
No. I say enough bad shit on my own. Don't put that in my mouth.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen photos of my parents from back in the 80s going to fraternities, and aside from how much weirder the clothes looked, at least to me, it was just such a different time. Like, everything was different. The trucks were different. The trailers were different. The way they ran them were different. Even the way people talked was different.
Yeah, there's a whole new lingo, and it is different. I thought our clothes were kind of cool.
I mean, they're coming back, but I mean, like, when you look at it, like, it just looks so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. the shapes of the cowboy hats.
Yeah, we probably stored them behind the seat, if I remember right. So they didn't look real good.
Yeah, you probably couldn't tell which way was front and back.
Yeah, exactly. Hats. You didn't know if I was coming or going.
But there's something about it that is uniquely special, if you want to say that would have somebody dedicate their entire life to it. And you've done competition and breeding, and obviously you guys have your facility, which is a really big place. And I guess what has been the main driver or motivator for you to want to just continue and enjoy yourself?
I think probably just the love of the game and the love of a horse. I love the horse first and the game second. There's nothing more satisfying than a good horse. I love to see other people go on with them. I like to get that next good horse. I think that's probably what drives me. I'm not saying I don't like money. I do, and I got to have it. I have needs. But I love a good horse, and that motivates me.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's funny. You walked in here and you were like, man, I could get real controversial. I could say some things that I shouldn't say, and I'm real curious what those things are now. Really curious, because you're being very PC, and I'm like, well, what was she actually talking about? So, well, I mean, what are these controversial things that you're worried about saying? This is such a safe place. This is like a synagogue.
This is not a safe place.
It's like a synagogue.
I'd never listened to a podcast in my life, and when she finally pinned me down to do this, I walk every morning, and while I've been walking, I've been listening to your podcast.
Yeah.
I've listened to a few, and some people are a little controversial, some are not.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think I'm a controversial person. I will stick up for an injustice.
Yeah.
Or if I think, I have my opinion about things that I don't think are good for the industry, or I think that are good, but I'm reasonable enough if you have a different opinion to listen to it and think, well, maybe.
Yeah.
But I've been known to stick up for an injustice that I didn't think was right.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of pins you controversial, but
depending on what side of the injustice you're on and whose perception you're
Yes.
up against.
Yes.
That's always the thing, isn't it? It's like when you're dealing with people and the different levels of maybe power they have or what have you, you end up in this weird place where either you go with that flow, like in your gut it's not right. It's certainly one of the things that got me out of messing with horses for a while, just because of where I had found myself. I'm like, man, I ain't not doing it this way.
Right, and I don't do it. Like if I don't think it's right, I don't do it.
Yeah.
If it don't feel right, don't do it. And I think that's probably where the little bit of the reputation of being controversial comes in.
Yeah.
Like I kind of stick to what I believe in.
What is that? I mean, I really am curious. Now it's like you're doing the onion thing, and I'm having to peel back layers so that I can cry a little bit.
Well, I mean, on what subject?
The subject we were just talking about. How about the incentive thing?
The incentive thing, I think it's good and bad. I don't know about the long term of it. I think some of those incentives are about the industry. I think some of those incentives are about self-gain. I tend to stay away from the ones that are about self-gain. The ones that are good for the industry, I try to play at. I think we're going to make our gene pool a gene pond because you have a select number of stallions to pick from if you want to stay in those incentives. And those girls that ride for the public and that are horse trainers for the public, financially, they need to ride incentives horses because they pay so good. Those of us that don't ride for the public, I'm going to ride the best horse I can get. I don't care if it's an incentive or not, because winners will always be winners, and winners will always sell. It doesn't matter if they're an incentive or not. But I can see where somebody training for the public that gets half what they win for 1 year is enticed by those incentives. Some of those incentives drain the stallion owner and drain the horse owner so much per year, every year. That's what makes those things pay so good, is the horse owner and the stallion owner are financing them. I don't think that's totally positive. But I can see both sides of it. But the longevity of it, I'm not sure about. I don't think anybody knows. Those of us that had a crystal ball, I think it got kicked and fractured it and can't read it anymore. It's hard to say what the future holds, but they do make it pay good right now. But I think the longevity of it is questionable.
Yeah, I've agree. And I mean, the way that we grew up and just that full-on horse trainer providing lifestyle, and certainly the kind of shoot from the hip cowboy way it was done in my household was we wouldn't have been able to do it.
Right.
We would have been out. I mean, if it were that time period. And the stallion thing is so interesting, right? Because everybody wants an incentive stallion. I'm no exception. I mean, we've got one that's coming this spring that is cross, and we're like, let's hope that they throw a stud with a good color that it's already paid up and see what happens. But at the same time, it's like you'll see like this last sale, that stud goes for nearly $900,000, and it's like if you start doing the math, it's like, man, it's going to take a while to make up that. If it was a business plan to buy that stallion, which it probably wasn't, maybe it was. I guess I don't really know. It's like that's quite a investment as far as like a business goes.
It is, and I don't know the ins and out on that stallion.
I don't either.
I know that he went with a spot into one of those incentives.
Yep.
And I think a high percentage of his sale was for that spot.
Yep.
Because as far as I know, and I'm not bashing him in any way, I can't even carry on an intelligent conversation about him, but I don't think he had won much or sired much.
No, I mean, someone might be like, well, you don't know shit, but it's like I wasn't really all that familiar with
Well,
him.
that's what I'm saying. I may not know shit. Maybe he has 3 at the finals, but to my knowledge, he wasn't a dominant sire in the barrel horse industry. I think that was a business decision some people made to get a spot. Maybe they're going to substitute another stallion in it. I don't know what their plans are. I don't even know them.
Yeah,
but
I certainly don't.
It's making the little person struggle when there's that much money in our industry that's dominating it. All the little people can do is keep training horses and hope they get one of those individuals that is worthy of that kind of price.
Yeah. Well, and there are other fraternities, and there's stuff on the East Coast and what have you, but I mean, like the pool of non-incentive fraternities, because even the ones that were good are now considering being incentive fraternities.
Absolutely, or at least an incentive side pot.
Yeah, and so, exactly, which it's a little discouraging.
And it's got to be for the producer. A producer comes in there and adds 20,000. Well, we're not going to go to it when they have a incentive race the next week that you only have to run against a small pool of horses that pays 35 or 40,000 to win it.
Yeah.
Why would you go win a go round that paid 1,800 anymore? You don't want to.
Cost you 1,800 to get there.
Yeah, so it's not positive for those producers that have been loyal producers all these years either.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about some of the old fraternities that when I was a little kid we used to go to, and it's like they would have no place in this world.
They really don't. They might as well have a multi-D.
Yep.
I call them multi-Ds because if I say 4D, Betty corrects me, it's a 5D.
Yep.
So I just call them multi-Ds and I'm safe.
Yeah.
But those producers are better off putting on a multi-D and leaving the fraternity out.
Yeah.
Which I hate because I don't love the multi-D system. Yeah, it's a place to season colts and it's a place to get better, but I'm a little old school and I still struggle with a slower horse winning more.
Yeah.
And so I love the fraternity game.
Yeah. They get the ideas from, I mean, there's a lot of places that do that. Like if you look at the World Series, the team roping, the number system, like some dude who learned how to swing his rope last year can go and he can win the same amount of money as the top guys. And I get that from a motivational standpoint, maybe, but it is tricky because being the best is, like, if you're a competitive person, that's what you like and why you want to do it.
And just in life, doctors make more than people that work at McDonald's. Those people that get educated and try harder and ride more, and I know the the Bettys will argue, oh, I ride just as much and I work a job. And no, you don't. I ride more after dark than you ride all week. Trainers ride and they work at getting better. And that
there's an excuse built in for everybody, but there's trainers who work jobs. I mean,
absolutely.
I've got a full-on career in a podcast and I still ride 3-4 horses a night.
Absolutely. And
you do it if you want to do it.
We ran a pawn shop for 30 years in
Exactly.
a payday loan business and breed mares and still be a trainer.
You find a way.
You do. You do.
And I think that's one of the core, because you were saying something over there that has been a topic the last few days with some of the other industries we've been talking about, and it's that you don't see a lot of young trainers.
You don't.
You see a lot of young kids with rich benefactors, but that's a different thing. But you don't see a lot of people who are like, let's be trainers.
You don't. I hope it's not a dying thing, but rodeo's growing as well and way more appealing to a young person than being a horse trainer and cleaning 15 or 20 stalls a day and riding 10 or 15 and hauling 5 or 6 every time you load the trailer. It's not probably as appealing as rodeo. So the trainers are older. And I do think that the younger generation doesn't quite have the work ethic that the older generation has. They don't have to.
It's a different world.
They're enabled. So I hope there's more young trainers coming up. But when you sit back and look, it's hard to name 5 trainers under 35 years old that ride 10 or 12 a day, and that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. It's a scary career path. I mean, you mentioned Clinton, which pretty much everybody does. Most of the phone calls I get are people asking me, is that really a friend of yours? Come on. And I was like, yeah, it is. And well, why? And it's because he's genuinely honest, and if you listen to what he was saying, your life might not suck so bad. You know.
Absolutely. Like you have to respect the guy. He made a good living in the horse industry. He taught a lot of people. I said, sometimes my language is not great, and I said, I'm glad Clinton came before me because I'll look like a choir girl no matter what I say.
Yeah.
But he says it like he feels it, and he's lived it, and he's intelligent.
Yeah.
How can you not respect that?
Yeah, no, it's true. But I mean, if you were to, because this brings on a good thing, because you're a really intelligent person and you've done this for a long time. If a young person, an under 35-year-old person came to you and they said, hey, Bo, I want to be a trainer. In this world that we're in today, what would you tell them to do?
I would tell them to go train under somebody, learn the business, work hard, get a job with a trainer, make sure it's what you want to do, ride 10 or 12 a day, be a peon for a year or two, and see if you can stand it.
Isn't that the hard part? Like, I think that's the thing that people struggle with. I know in my life, I've certainly struggled with, you know, you can build yourself to be the top at something, the best in the industry at something, but if you want to evolve, then you have to go be the bottom of something else, and it's really tough on the ego.
It is.
And I think that might be a lot of it is maybe 30 years ago, there's no eyes, right? There's no social media. There was Speed Horse Magazine, Barrel Horse Magazine, Western Horseman. I'm sure there's a couple others, but you could go and you could grind and not have to talk to anybody, not see. There'd be no pull to post what you're doing, so that there wasn't the inherent or the perceived shame in being a peon, because no one fucking knew you were doing it.
We didn't know any different.
No one knew any different.
We didn't know
now,
we were peons.
Now you're seeing all these highlight reels, and you're seeing Cassie or Ashley or whoever, and you're just like, God, they're kicking ass. Why am I not kicking ass? And, you know, why do I have to do this? And it's like, man, you know what those girls used to do? You know,
Absolutely.
You know what all these people that you're seeing used to do
To get to where they are today. And yeah, I'm glad that I did the big end of my screwing up before social media. Now I still rub my horse and my dog more than I do my phone, but it has its place. You can find out about events. Maps are wonderful. There's some good things about social media, but there's a lot of negative too. And you hire somebody to come help you, And my people skills aren't very good anyway. More people work for my husband than me. I've never had an assistant, but we do have stall cleaners and lab help and breeding help on his part of our business. But you look around and you're working and they're rubbing their phone.
I like how you say rubbing your phone.
Well, that's what you do.
It is.
They just zone out and rub their phone. Like you see it at every restaurant. You see people doing it that should be working. When you haul a mare into a vet clinic, there's somebody leaning against a wall that ought to be jogging a horse, rubbing their phone.
Yeah.
It's just become acceptable in society and it's social media.
You ever think about it this way? And this is how I always think about it, because we have I certainly have that pull. It is a fight to it's almost a fight not to drive and do it.
Yeah.
You have to fight that urge.
Yeah, lay it down.
And I think that's why people aren't achieving as much, is because you get that same chemical response, that same dopamine and adrenaline rush from seeing. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what you're seeing and what you're doing necessarily. Right. And so you can sit there and you're like, world championship, wow. And your brain's like, world championship, or police or whatever. And so you never...
Don't focus on what you're doing.
You don't focus.
Move to the next project.
It's kind of like video games. It's like you can sit there and you can go experience things on this,
right,
that you could only experience in life if you worked really hard. And then why work hard? Why be a top trainer when you can just...
Yeah, when you can get paid to not.
But what would we all say if we saw somebody there just snorting cocaine in place of the phone in all these places? Because it's the same chemical response.
Right.
It would probably change it. So how do you get rid of that? I don't know how.
I don't either. It's just become socially acceptable to spend I don't know how many hours a week on your phone.
Yeah.
But 20 years ago you didn't.
Yeah, no. And 30 years ago your phone was a box in your truck.
If you had one.
If you had one.
Yeah. It was a rotary dial phone at home.
Yeah.
Primarily.
Dad, I remember being a kid at some Lazy E or Fort Smith or you name the fraternity, and my dad had one. He had that Sony bag phone thing, and I would just carry that thing around thinking I was the coolest son of a bitch who ever lived.
Yeah, you could dial out.
Yeah.
It cost you $3 a minute, but you could.
Oh, I did it one time, and I got my ass whipped.
Probably needed it.
Oh, hell yeah. I didn't know. I was like, I didn't know. I just wanted to call. He was like, who'd you call? I was like, I don't even know.
I don't know.
Don't even know. Probably was trying to impress somebody.
1-800 something.
Yeah.
900.
Yeah. Is that was that what it was? Was it 900?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But it's an interesting world, and the horse industry is such a small piece of it, but you get a good reflection of what's going on everywhere if you look into your own industry. And
you do. It's not just fastest horse wins anymore, and you show up and run barrels. It's evolving.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. When your guys' business, right? Your breeding stuff and what you're doing, is that, what brought that on?
Jeff,
Yeah.
When he quit riding broncs, he went to finals in the saddle bronc riding a couple times, and then we got married, and he was kind of obsessed with the breeding industry. He went and bought some mares after I won second at Fort Smith on a horse. He went and bought that horse's mother. That was kind of the beginning of it, and then got some sisters, and we bred outside stallions till one was foaled that he thought was the one, and that's the one we have now. And that's really his side of the circle. I would probably still be going to the racetrack and picking out stuff that I liked or buying from other breeders if it wasn't for him. But he loves the breeding side of it. He just does. That's what he does. And it's been good to us.
Hail, son, if you're not wearing rock and roll denim, then you ain't no cowboy. I'm Dale Brisby, the greatest bull rider ever to live, and I'm known for keeping it 90. And I keep it 90 because I'm wearing rock and roll denim with reflex technology. They give me the flexibility I need to get that knee up. My biggest problem is I get an earache because I get my knee up so high, I kick myself in the ear. That's why I'm the greatest of all time. It's because of rock and roll denim, old son. Get you some.
Yeah, because you guys have been able to do it profitably and well, and I've seen that's so many people's goal and their dream, and I just see a lot of people who don't know how to make it work.
It's a hard business, and it's getting harder with all the incentives and having to pay into them and stuff. A working man that just works for a living has trouble paying those to get in the incentive to get somebody to breed your horse. Nowadays, it's really changed in the last 7 or 8 years. Mm-hmm. Our stallion is 19 now, and it seems like he's just getting really popular the last few years. But I tell everybody it's only been 19 years for our overnight success.
Yeah.
But and we're kind of glad we're on the downhill side of it with the way the industry's going. He still loves to breed mares, and he likes to foal out, and we've made a business out of that now. He right there at the property, I think he flushed close to 100 embryos this year, and we foaled out a bunch of mares for other people. But I don't know that we'll own another stallion after this. That one's been good to us, and he loves it, but we might be on the downhill of the stallion owner side.
Yeah. I guess you only get so many dice rolls.
Yeah,
when you're on that, even with Futurity horses, you can only play the 4-year thing so many times.
Right, and I'll keep training horses for probably quite a while. Like, I'm pretty sound. I love it.
Yeah, you're only breaking your legs and going to vets to fix them.
Well, that was not even a horse accident. That was I didn't read the fireman's ladder safety course or something. I don't know. That went definitely wrong.
You're telling the story, and I'm like, wait. So you didn't go to the human hospital. You went to the vet to get this taken care of.
I was kind of alone, and I mean, it wasn't the big bone, and I got through it.
Yeah. Well, you're not hobbling around, really.
No, I'm pretty sound. I don't know that I'd pass a pre-purchase, but I don't know how many barrel racers that have much age on them would.
Yeah. You brought up something really interesting, racetrack, going to the racetrack and picking horses. And that used to be one of my favorite things to do because, we used to go to the racetrack all the time, spent summers there. And not a lot of them, but a few summers. And do you think there's still a place where people can go to a racetrack and pick out prospects? Do you think there's still an opportunity there that maybe isn't being tapped? It's just not something I hear anymore.
I do. I do. I think there's still some race horses that make barrel horses. Dash to Fame was a race horse, and he became a prominent barrel horse sire. Trace Sace, there's some of them that have bled over, a lot of them that have. Leslie Willis comes to mind. She rides a straight-up racehorse. I'm sure likes an incentive horse, and some of those racehorses have got into incentives. But I do think that you can still go to the racetrack and buy you a good-looking horse, and some pedigrees take a little longer to train than others. But like I said earlier, a winner's a winner, and maybe they're not a winner at 4, but they're a winner at 6. Most barrel horses get it. There's very few pedigrees that are just non-trainable. Some just take longer than others. And I do think you can go to the racetrack and buy yourself a winner. I do think your odds increase buying barrel horse pedigree, but it's not out of the question just to buy good pedigree and still have a winner.
Yeah. Do you think that going the racetrack route is a way to where this barrier of entry where it would be a little lower as far as cost?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you can still buy you a pretty nice racehorse reject that maybe didn't go to the mountain and didn't run AAA. I think you can buy that way cheaper than you can an incentive enrolled pedigree at a barrel horse sale or even from a breeder.
Yeah.
I do think your odds, I think you're going to have to ride more of those. You might have to buy 5 of those race colts to get 1 winner. And if you buy 5 barrel horse pedigreed horses, you'll get 4 winners.
Yeah.
I think your odds increase.
But if you're starting from nothing.
Absolutely. And that's what most of us did when we first started. We bought race horses. Or some people liked cow horses.
Some people were buying, yeah.
They did. They liked Rainer rejects or something. That wasn't the route that I went.
Was that because you were looking for speed?
I always thought it was okay to get beat, but not okay to get outrun.
Yeah.
Like, I could make a fast horse turn sometimes. I could never make a slow horse fast. It's just what I preferred. But there's some cow horse pedigrees that win. You have to go through quite a few of them to find that individual. And I think young people don't want to go through that many anymore, so they're buying pedigree. I buy pedigree because I'm old and I want to go with statistics. But back in the day, when you didn't have a choice, you bought a racehorse, and a lot of them worked.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was doing it.
Oh, yeah. That was only, 15 years ago.
That wasn't that long ago. I mean,
half of our barn was...
Everything had a tattoo. They at least started them or galloped them or...
I used to think it was the coolest part. I used to think, like, oh, this is a racehorse.
Yeah.
Like, it was somehow more elite than what we were doing.
Right.
Like, it was a more civilized part of the horse industry. So I really enjoyed it.
And there's a lot of benefits with buying a racehorse. They've been handled. They've been washed. They've had their legs wrapped. They know how to run. They've been in a stall. I mean, there's some benefits that the steps you have to take with raising a foal and getting him to be 2 years old and getting him broke and getting him tame enough where you can wrap his legs and put a blanket on him. When you buy a racehorse, all that's done for you.
Yeah.
So there's some benefits.
Yeah. And if people, because not a lot of people want to be a top Futurity trainer. I think a lot of people want to jockey top Futurity horses.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of perceived glory in that. But I mean, it's been 2 or 3 weeks since the last incentive deal, and I'm trying to remember who won it. You know, it's like you move on to the next one really quick, and so I think people get fixated on that outcome or that idea of that glory. You think that, and maybe they miss opportunities where they could be pretty fulfilled with the horses that they could get.
Right. There's not a whole lot of glory in being a Futurity winner. I mean, you win a Futurity, like you say, month from now, you don't remember who won it.
Yep.
And it seems like in the Futurity industry, you're really only as good as your next run. Like, constantly judged on the next horse you bring along. And I think there's starting to be a little bit of, it's not glory, but a little bit of recognition for trainers that have some longevity with their horses. And they sell them and they go on and they compete with other people. Futurity people kind of got a bad rap for a while that we put too much pressure on them and
that they wouldn't make.
They wouldn't
after.
make. Yeah, they were done at the end of their 4-year-old year. And
don't you hate that?
I do kind of hate that.
And people get a bad judgment, and you do it. I mean, how many times are you sitting around shooting the shit with people, and you're thinking, well, so and so, they do really good. And somebody, well, yeah, but you can't ride behind them,
right?
Yeah, they won't make a rodeo horse. I mean, people say that shit all the time. I'm like, God,
have you tried?
Really?
Yeah.
I just don't see how that's possible.
And it's changing a little bit, and statistics are proving it. I mean, Jordan just won the world on a horse that was a Futurity horse, and I mean, Haley's was a Futurity horse. It didn't go to every Futurity, but it competed at the Futurities. It was trained as a 4-year-old. And a sorry rider is going to ruin any age horse, and a good rider is not going to ruin any age horse. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, good horse is a good horse.
What do you think makes a good rider at those ages?
A good horse?
Yeah.
There's so many good, capable barrel horse trainers. I could name you 10 just right off the top of my head. And they still have to get a good horse to beat you.
Yep.
A great trainer on a loser, still a loser. Now, there's some girls that can do better on a loser than others, but it takes a great horse to make a great trainer.
Yeah.
I mean, to win, there's a lot of girls can win on a winner. Just, it takes a good horse.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, the method to training one doesn't really change.
It really doesn't. I tell people if you had enough bananas, a monkey could train a barrel horse.
Yeah.
It's just a repetition, putting them in the right spot, and not even necessarily your right spot or my right spot, just the same every time. Most people that trained their first barrel horse didn't have a clue what they were doing. I mean, I think Charmaine had looked back, and all she did was go around and around the barrels. And he became a winner. And there's a lot of those horses out there that were winners because people just stayed persistent, just over and over and over. And they were good horses.
Yeah. Yeah. When you think about what it is, really, I mean, there's some things that are pretty complicated that horses do. I mean, the stuff that's going on in Fort Worth right now where they got to do 3 different events and all that, that's complicated. You know, that horse has to remember to do 3 different jobs, and that's pretty impressive, and they're doing it as a 3-year-old. But if you think about barrel racing, and it is a really fantastic race, but yeah, keep it simple.
It is so simple.
Why do you think people try to overcomplicate it so much?
I don't know. People become controlling. They want to control the ribs and control the shoulder and control the face, and I do think there is some benefit to having some control of your horse's body parts. You have to get them to do it correctly and be easy to ride and not hurt themselves. But I think sometimes it's overcomplicated with having to put your hands in the exact same spot and your foot in a, and lean to the outside and pull here. I don't think it's that complicated. I think if your horse is broke and he follows your hand and gets off your foot, you can start him on the pattern and teach him the pattern and go forward. I don't think it's that complicated. And there's trainers that would argue with me. And make it as complicated as you want to. I don't care. Doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it as simple as I can. Because that does affect me. And I want a horse to be responsible for themselves. Like, I like a horse that's about 90% responsible. I'll do 10%. And if I have to, I can show up for 15. But I want that horse to be responsible. And so I try to put that in them young and let them be responsible for themselves. And I think it makes them user-friendly to ride further down the line.
Yeah. I always think about it like, I want, like, obviously, it's not going to be enjoyable riding a 2-year-old, and part of a 3-year-old's not going to be. But, like, when they're there, it's like, man, I want to get off of a horse and be like, God, that felt good, just riding them. Like, if you just get on a horse and you pick them up and want them to lope a circle even, and it just feels good, I've always felt like that's the thing.
It is the thing. Like I say, it feels right.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
They do what you ask them to do. They're responsive. It's not complicated. I mean, loping a circle, yeah, at first, your first few rides, I call them squovels. They're not squares, they're not circles, they're not ovals, they're squovels. And if I can just herd them around in a squoval, and pretty soon it becomes a circle, then it feels good. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with the barrels. When you first start them, they'll be stepping in or off the backside. Just keep putting them in the right place. It's not complicated. Then they get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I think people like to when you had other businesses, to make it really feel like you were doing something big, you wanted to sell it as this overcomplicated thing to, I'm not saying you, but just in general. Like, that's kind of what we do as humans, I think, is we really want the perception that what we're doing is so difficult and so out of the normal person's scope of intelligence or work ethic that you'd never be able to do what I do. Yeah. People sell you that story and everything.
And it's not true. Anybody can train a barrel horse.
Yeah.
I like to say, if you had enough bananas, a monkey could train a barrel horse.
Right.
Just repeat. It's not difficult. And when you get a good horse, they're just winners.
Yeah.
Like, there's man-made horses and there's God-made horses. God-made horses are easier to win on, but you can win on a man-made horse. And you're going to get both if you keep going through horses.
Yeah. Strictly
my opinion. And I don't complicate barrel racing. I am not on speed dial with NASA. I'm not. I'm pretty simple.
Yeah, me too. But so when you look back, right, and you look at a life lived, per se, and what you've accomplished in your life and done with horses, and somebody asks you a question, it's like, hey, you look at your life lived, and then, like, what was the best part of this whole horse journey for Bow Hill?
Probably the people you meet and the good horses you ride. It's not a certain victory to me, or I don't win a lot. I place a lot. I can count probably on my hands the times I've won first. I'm not willing to sacrifice my horse to win first. I'm not that kind of rider. Never really have been. I like to place. I like consistency, and I like the horse to love his job, and I want somebody else to be able to win on him, and I have my whole life. But I would say just the privilege to get to ride good horses and the people you meet is probably the best thing that's come out of it so far for me. Maybe there's better things to come, but victories just, I don't know, you expect the victories. I think the lows are really low, but the highs aren't all that high of winning because you expect to. I mean, you've worked for hours and hours and hours on a horse that you want 15 seconds out of. You expect that 15 seconds. So the high is expected and the lows are really low when you wanted that 15 seconds and they let you down. Like, damn, I've rode you for a year and a half and you can't give me 15 seconds?
Or even worse, you let them down.
Yeah. Oh, that's the very
worse.
worst. When you beat yourself, that's tough. Like, it is. And it happens. I mean, some days you just can't ride in a sidecar. It just don't work for you. Like, I mean, it happens. Some of the best riders out there look like a fat girl in chaps on a certain day.
Oh, you can't say that now. She might be on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Exactly. Yeah, I lost my chaps.
Yeah, you did. Well, your chaps are on her one leg.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's a pretty good analogy, not just for barrel horses, but I mean life.
It is. I mean the people you meet and the good horses you get to ride is what's kept me hooked and what I've probably enjoyed most about it over the years.
I think that's the thing that people love is just that sense of community you get when you go to a horse show or a fraternity or what have you. I think that's why it's so addicting, is because you get this community that's built around the same goal with the same more or less principles. I know there's not some good folks that run around, but by and large,
right. It's fading
community.
a little because of social media and phone rubbing. Like you don't hang out together and drink a cold beer and play cards and tell stories, and that kind of thing's kind of gone. Like you don't have as many friends, and you don't go to the go-kart track or go do something fun with a group. You might go out to eat and half the group's rubbing their phone, and the camaraderie's probably not as deep as it was before phones and social media went everywhere with people.
It's kind of sad.
It is kind of sad. I tell people today's society doesn't have as much fun as we did, and they just kind of roll your eyes. She's old.
Yeah, but I agree. I mean, I just remember being a kid, and when you're the kid, the last thing you give a crap about is the barrel racing. At the fraternity, it's like, oh, we're at this speed horse event or wherever, and there's an Elages or a Six Flags right next there. It's like, we got to go to the Six Flags. We got to. And then when you get there, it's like there's a whole thing built around it.
Right.
That's not just get in, get out, get in your trailer.
Yeah, people used to sit out in their lawn chairs and visit.
Someone would be cooking at their trailer, invite everybody over.
Absolutely, and that's kind of faded. There's still, a handful of the old timers that get together, but it's faded a little as far as just the friendship that you made. That was fun.
Yeah, it might come back.
And you get to share ideas and visit with other trainers. You can always learn something. You can learn from the village idiot if you'll listen. I mean, there's just always something to be learned. But, and I'm sure you can learn by rubbing your phone and watching a YouTube video too. But it's a little more one-on-one when you sit around with a bunch of trainers, share ideas.
I agree. Well, Bo, I think you've got a lot of great ideas, and getting to sit here and chat with you has been a good experience, and neither of us looked at our phones, so that was good.
Yeah, I don't even have mine.
Yeah. Did you lose it?
It stays gone a lot. I have it somewhere, but I don't really keep track of it. I check it because you do business on them a lot, but I don't keep it right with me 24/7.
Yeah.
I don't.
Everyone needs to let it go.
Yeah, it's a little addicting.
I've noticed if you can refrain from grabbing it first thing in the morning, like set a time, like, because that's you're like, and if you can stop yourself for an hour, don't touch the phone for the first hour of your day, then you're setting your day up a lot better.
Right.
So
why is
that's
it
something I would say.
addictions happen first thing in the morning?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Like if you chew a Copenhagen, that's what you want first thing in the
Exactly.
morning. Like, God, where's my Copenhagen?
But I guarantee you 90%, 99% of people, the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning, if it's, aside from turning the alarm off that's on the phone, they're grabbing their phone and they're going to that social media or whatever.
Yeah, whatever you're addicted to,
something to
that's
say,
what
Ty?
you want in the first morning.
Oh, another strategy that I have is just put your phone on silent for non-working hours, and you just don't look at your phone. You don't have something buzzing or vibrating in your pocket constantly. So if you just put your phone on pure silent when you don't need to look at it, you're not going to be incentivized to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is important because it steals your productivity. It steals a lot of your happiness. That's really dangerous. And the people selling us that morphine drip, they don't care if you're happy or if you succeed. So
and play the devil's advocate, you do so much business on it too.
You do.
You take contracts, you sign contracts, people call to breed to your horse. A mare customer calls, wants to know about their foal. Like,
that's a different thing, though.
Somebody wants to call buy a horse. It's kind of a necessity. It's kind of a evil, but a necessity. Yes.
But the things that are on the phone,
right?
If you're flipping through 3 million TikToks a day, that's got nothing to do with you getting
with
contracts
business. No.
or business.
No,
two different things. Because the first thing in the morning, someone's going to Facebook. They're not going to the contract.
No, they're not doing business.
They're not doing business. But
exactly,
we can't solve all the world's problems. We're simple folk.
We are simple folks. Yeah, we let the horse do it.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad she nailed you down, and you did a great job. There's nothing to be scared of, right?
Yeah, not a big talker.
No. You just did it for an hour straight.
Really?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been The Gauge, hosted by me, Chance Conrado, produced and edited by our guy Ty Yeager. Shout out to the executive producers Dustin Pointer and Cody Denton. Marketing and content produced by Riley Chone. Make sure to rate and review this podcast, as well as follow The Gauge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And make sure to subscribe to The Gauge wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you guys next time.